Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. You guys asked for it. Shawnah Marie is back. Woo woo. Yeah. So, Shawnah and I were just chit-chatting a little bit before we hit go, and Shawnah read the little quote that is on her tea bag. So, Shawnah, take it away. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So, in the beginning is you, in the middle is you, and in the end is you. Message from my tea bag.
That is so good. So good. Well, last time we were talking about aligning into who you are and kind of reinventing yourself and, about reinventing yourself in the bubble, in the box versus out of the box of community and, people who think that they know you. And I recently saw a meme or actually not a meme. It was just like a one of those infographic things. And it talked about and showed charts on as you age, how much time you actually spend with whom, such as your parents, your kids, whatever. And in the end, it's all you. I mean, it's that the majority of your life is actually spent alone. Now, if you think about it, you go to the bathroom, you're probably alone, unless you have kids. And then they're like, Mommy, I need snacks or whatever, Yeah, but I love that. And it's just like when you reinvent yourself, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else.
Yes, it's all about you. So that was an amazing message from the tea this morning.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh. So the last time that we met, we agreed to come back and talk about triggers and feedback and ego. And this is a big one because when we reinvent ourselves, it triggers a lot of people. Sometimes your ego can come into play and be like, well, who am I to reinvent myself? But who are you not, right? But again,
Right.
In the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And if you're a version of yourself that isn't serving you, and if you're a version of yourself that is toxic or just doesn't feel good, you owe it to yourself to feel better. And you're in the wellness space. So you do massage and you are always doing like the coolest things. You do like the whole red light therapy thing. You do a float bath. You do, what is it? That hot works that you're talking about. You get massages. You do all the things. So share with us a little bit about your journey in why you chose massage therapy and how that has helped you reinvent yourself and really just be that version of you that you really are guided to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So massage therapy, I think we were we juniors in high school?
Yeah.
Or maybe we were sophomores, but my sister, so my foster sister, I just call her my sisters, but my sister went to Aveda for cosmetology.
Oh,
and she, at that time, I think they were starting in school to ask us like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? What career? Are you going to go to college? And I wasn't sure, and so anyways, I was her model a lot, I had different hair colors, cuts, everything else. And I remember, she cut all my hair off. I think it was after a prom or something. Cause I did at one point have long hair.
I remember that.
Do you remember that? And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, thank gosh I can pull off short hair. At least I think I can pull it off.
Yes.
So, I went with her, I went and did those things. And afterwards she got a job at the spa in Osceola, horse spa in Osceola. And I went there and I got a massage. And I walked out and I was like, oh my gosh, like my body's happy. I'm calm. I relax. Like that was amazing. And then I thought, oh, like that's a job.
Mm-hmm.
You will just be at peace. You'll be relaxed as you're relaxing your clients. It's not chaotic. You still are working with people. It's still customer service. So you're still helping people, but it's in a different way.
Mhm.
And it's transformed over that, but that's how it first got started.
Mhm.
And then as it's transformed, you know, I haven't done it full time all this time. I graduated in that, I think it was the spring or the summer of 95 from massage school at Aveda.
Mhm.
And, you know, back then it was luxury and something, you know, you were doing that was, you know, it wasn't part of your self-care. It wasn't part of your health care. I mean, be honest, your health is your biggest wealth. You get one, are you going to take care of it? Or are you just going to abuse it and beat it up and never fill it up? You know, I, depending on my audience, I sometimes will compare it to like your car. You don't expect your car to get run without any gas, right? But you don't expect to, if you're the gardener and you're listening, you don't expect to, you know, plant your garden and not put some love and some work into it and have, you know, bloom and beautiful, or that butterfly struggling. You know, you got to take care of it and you got to nurture it. So I think for me, it's just transformed into that. Like, what am I going to do where my clients are just going to be like, oh, wow. You know, recently it's been pretty interesting that, you know, when you get your feedback, I've had a couple of clients that are like, I don't know, can I call it massage drunk? Like, and I'm like, oh, right? And I'm
Yes,
like,
you do that to people.
yeah, I said, explain that. What does that mean? Because I can't give myself a massage. So when people say, explain your massage, I'm like, okay, modalities I learned. I did some acupuncture, but I learned reflexology. It's Swedish massage. It's more about relaxation, but then I did Lomi Lomi. So that's all about energy and the flow and everything and reconnecting the mind, body, soul, spirit together. So it's pretty interesting, but yeah, it's as relaxing to me as it is to my clients. And you know, nobody's mad at you when you're done.
Right?
Right. There were days like you could sit on the phone and a reservation maybe didn't go just right or something, and you'd like upgrade them to a riverside at the campground. And some people still weren't happy with that because something else was going on in their life, right? So today I realized when I was giving customer service, it wasn't about me. It was about something else going on in their life, right? Their life was full. But when they come in and they just get to shut down, or some people talk, at first before they actually relax. So that's why I chose what I chose, because you want to make sure people can come in, they can sit down, they can relax, and they can just shut off, whether, you know, and they get to refuel themselves while they're here. So that's part of why I chose what I chose.
Nice. Well, and the thing about our society is it's so fast paced. You have all the notifications on your phone all the time. You have all the emails that people want you to answer right now, including those text messages. And it's like yesterday, I was trying on clothes and you called and I'm like, and like I've got like 2 salespeople like all up in my shit when I'm trying on stuff. And I'm like, sorry, Shawnah, I'm trying stuff on. But it's like, I felt bad and almost guilty for not picking up the phone. But I'm like, she's going to be there when I'm done and she'll understand. And I'm just like, why do I have this conversation? It's like, because we live in this society where you're being selfish if you don't pick up the phone and if you don't answer the text and if you don't do this and you don't do that. And it's like to go into your space, and you have an amazing space, by the way. When you go into your space and you surrender to someone else taking care of you energetically and physically, you truly can relax. And the cool thing is, and you know this because this happens all the time, I'm sure, is that you release that somatic energy that is stuck in, trauma, emotions, all that stuff gets held in the muscles. And then when we, those knot, oh, here's a knot. Oh, here's a knot. And you're like, how the hell do you find that stuff? But
right.
Yeah. And then it's like all the stuff that comes up, and I've cried, I've laughed, I've done everything in between during a massage, and you truly walk out of there, especially your massages, kind of feeling drunk because you're just like, you're so free from that stress and you're so free from everything because you truly are allowed to shut everything off. And
right.
And it's just, and that's one of the things is like, I used to be an overthinker, like big time. And I remember you were giving me a scalp massage one time and you're just like, just let it happen. Just like relax. And I'm
Right.
just, cause you're just like, okay, you're not relaxing. Just like, let it happen. Just like, let the fuck go,
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. So, I have a couple of clients that will come in and they're like, I just can't shut my brain down. I
Yes.
can't. And I have hot Himalayan salt stones that I use. So, I mean, I tell people, like, even as we're talking right now, I have my feet on my hot Himalayan salt stone that you gave me. I have my feet on that because there's just this amazing thing that happens when you feel the warmth, right? But then the stones are light because there's Himalayan salt, right? So you get the light energy and then the heat, and it just sends a message to the brain to say, just right. So I do have, a couple of clients that when they come in, they don't necessarily do the whole thing in a salt stone, but we do a couple stones. So they just know when they're like, my brain's going again. And then I grab a stone and I'll go ahead and massage them with the stone. And then I go hand. So the only tools I really use in my massage is the hot Himalayan salt stones. I do have essential oils, but it's really about what can you do to get your brain to quiet? Because like you said, you got this and that and you feel guilty and stuff. And, I think you helped me with that is to realize, call, and if I'm available, I'll answer. If I'm not, I won't. And, it's so interesting that I get the people that right away send the pre-send text that says I can't talk right now. And I'm like, no worries, I left you a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's those little things. I had somebody the other day, because I did a couple talks on self-care through the holidays, right? Self-care for your well-being. But I said, be okay with picking up the phone and leaving the voicemail. Well, nobody listens to them anymore. And I said, here's the thing. You may think that because of our society, but yes, they do. Somebody needs, I can guarantee you, there's going to be somebody that you're going to leave that voicemail for that really needs to hear that text of, hi, oh my gosh, you're probably busy, but I wanted to just call you because I remembered that, you're going to make a rustic apple pie for Thanksgiving. And oh my gosh, I'm going to tell you, you're spending Thanksgiving with my mom and dad and my youngest. And like, Cash is like, nope, I do pumpkin. But my dad was so excited because I'm not there to make him an apple pie. And he's getting a homemade apple pie, right? So, when you think of that thing, call somebody and leave them that message, because they might just need to know that you're not going to be there. But man, I'm super excited that you shared you're going to do that, right? Yeah. And that thing of somebody remembering something, you can pick up and listen to that voicemail at any point. Yes. That's why at first when you said, let's be on Snapchat, I was like, I'm over 40. Really? But now I'm like, oh my gosh, how nice is that? I can say goodnight, or you can say goodnight. And if I'm sleeping, I see the message in the morning and I play it when I can. And I get to space. I mean, it makes a lot of difference. Yeah. But don't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is that you hold space so well for people. And I think I do as well, like with my clients. I don't need to toot my own horn, but it's but it's like when we hold space for our people, that those emotions can come out, and those feelings of, I feel guilty when I don't answer the phone or whatever. And then we can give that feedback or that insight, or maybe ask them an open-ended question that will get them thinking, oh, okay, you know what? Yeah, this isn't being selfish. This is being self-caring, because she's my friend. She knows if I'm available, I will answer the phone. If I'm not available, I will listen to that voice message. And I keep all my voice messages, by the way, that way that, and this might sound morbid, that way, if they pass away, I still have those voice messages, because we actually have 2 voice messages from my dad. And this was kind of before it was super modern technology, whatever, because, phones and whatever. But I mean, and he didn't die in the Stone Ages. He died in 2013. But yeah, there was 2 voice messages on one of my sister's old phones, and they figured out a way to pull them off. So now we have 2 voice messages of my dad's, and I'm like, it's so good. It's so freaking good. So leave that message, people. Leave the message. And I don't mean to sound morbid, but leave that message, because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but yeah, it's like when you allow yourself to leave that message, when that person has time, when they are available, they will listen to it, even if they don't call you back or whatever. but find a way to meet your people where they're at. This is one of the reasons why I use Snapchat with my private circle, because it is so instant. You can be like, hey, and I'm on there anyway talking to my kids, because that's where my kids are at. Like, that's one of the things that I always recommend to my parents when like they say that they're not feeling connected with their kids or with whomever. I'm like, where are they at? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Snapchat? Connect with them, meet them where they are at, not where you think they should be. And so, yes. So like my kids are on Snapchat and I snap them every day. I snap them good night. I snap Shawnah good night every day,
Awesome.
And, some of my other very good friends. And it's like, it is an instant thing that you can do. And it's a tiny little thing that can let them know that, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. You're still in my space for a reason, and it's one of those things that when we reinvent ourselves, when we get into that space of recognizing that you have to live with yourself, so you might as well work on your stuff, you realize who means anything to you and who is healthy for you to hang out with, who's toxic for you to hang out with. And you allow yourself to say, how can I nurture these friendships and these relationships with my people? And also, how can I nurture that relationship with myself? And part of that relationship with yourself is listening to that inner voice and recognizing, does this empower me or does this not empower me? And that's one of the benefits of having a friend like Shawnah, or someone like Shawnah and I. We literally have been friends for our entire life. But it's like having somebody in your sphere or in your realm that will give you honest feedback. And sometimes that honest feedback is hard to swallow. Sometimes it can be like, okay, I'm not going to talk with you for like a couple of weeks because I'm mad, but I'm mad because you're telling me the truth and I'm pissed that I'm hearing the truth right now. But
Or even, to interject, it's like, oh gosh, did I really acted like that, or I really did that, or kind of embarrassed, and you're like, oh gosh. But I needed the brutal honesty to be able to say, okay, that was where I was at, but that's not who I am.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big one.
Yeah.
And I said that about meeting your kids where they're at.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Well, and it's just like, meet everybody where they're at, not just your kids, but yeah, it's just like sometimes we get in a place like right now, I have an aging cat. He's 17. He sleeps pretty much all the time. But he sleeps literally on my spot in the bed. I'm like, really? And so at night, I want to sleep in my spot. And so I've tried moving over and whatever, but he's constantly waking me up at night. And so right now I am very tired, but I'm plugged into my work. And so I feel energized in that sense, but physically I'm tired. And so sometimes when you don't get enough sleep, or maybe you're hungry, or maybe you're PMSing, or whatever the case may be, you sometimes snap at someone, or you sometimes say something that you're like, I really should not have said that. And so typically, like when I have that space where I snap at somebody or whatever, I'm like, I am so sorry. And sometimes it's like instant. I'll snap. I'll be like, okay, I am so sorry. That's a bitchy thing to say. I'm very sorry. That was uncalled for, and then sometimes you don't recognize it. And then somebody will call you out on it and give you that feedback of what's the deal? Like, why, what's with the attitude?
Because you don't even know you do it sometimes. You don't.
Exactly.
That's what happened, or that's what went on. So it's good to get the feedback.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And right now I'm working, over the past year, I've been working with a spiritual mentor of mine, Samaha Yogini, and I've done some podcast episodes about her. But one of the things that we've been working on, we've worked on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't see this, was the ego trigger about people not hearing me. And this goes back to, and I kind of want to dig out. I don't even remember which photo album it's in. Okay, I'm back. I went to my photo album. So, I have a couple of little stories to tell you guys. And this is really huge when it comes to feedback and triggers, and the ego. So I was 9. Was this 9? Hang on, let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I was 9 years old. Cabbage patches were all the rage. Okay.
I remember those.
Yes. So my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I said, a cabbage patch. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. And my mom was of the mindset of more is more. For me, I'm less is more. I would rather get one thing that is perfect that I want, that's high quality, whatever, than 10, 20 things that I don't. Needless to say, I did not get the Cabbage Patch. I got an off-brand. Let me see. This was me.
Yeah.
Getting the off-brand Cabbage Patch. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, here, okay, I'm going to take this out of the so that you can see it. I'm going to show a picture of you when you're 9. Are you okay with that?
Fine.
So I was so jealous. I was so jealous. This is some of my friends and I. And Shawnah, look, she is holding a Cabbage Patch.
Oh.
And I was holding the off-brand. I was like, look at my face. I was like, are you fucking serious?
Oh. Right.
Yeah. And again, okay, so like that previous picture, I had an entire lap full of stuff. And I was like, all the money she spent on all the other stuff, she could have just spent on the one Cabbage Patch. I felt so selfish. I felt shameful that I didn't like any of the gifts that she gave me. And of course, the whole Catholic guilt thing. I was pissed. I was like, I felt so invalidated because she didn't hear what I said. I said, I want a Cabbage Patch. That is it. Nothing else. Full stop. Right. And she got me all this other stuff that I didn't want. I didn't even use it. So then fast forward, first husband, I told him, I said, I don't like cards because I don't normally keep them anyway. And I don't want chocolate because I don't like milk chocolate. I like dark chocolate. But back in the day, they didn't really make a ton of dark chocolate stuff. So what does he do? He gets me like a 3-foot Valentine's Day card and a giant box of milk chocolates.
So you didn't hear?
Huh?
So you didn't hear and you don't care.
Yeah. And so exactly. So I was like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? Fast forward to my third husband. He asked me, I can't even remember what it was. But this was like the entire time we were together. He would ask me what I wanted. I would say, I want a blue pen. This is just a random example because like I said, it was the entire time we were together. I want a blue pen. He would give me, hang on, let me see if I have it. I don't. Okay, I normally have a bunch, but in any case, so he would give me a green pen or a black pen or a purple pen. I'm like, I asked for a blue pen. So then I tried to do like the whole like mind trick thing where I'm like, I want a green pen. He'd give me a red one. I'm like, dang it. I really wanted a blue pen, but I think he knew that and was just fucking with me. Yeah. But he would do this to the boys too. Like he would ask them what they wanted for their birthday or Christmas. They said, I want this one thing. And he would get them everything but that one thing. Ooh, it was so invalidating because I'm like, and that was like the biggest trigger is when I don't feel heard. And like that, I will go off, or I used to go off when I didn't feel heard because I'm like, what the heck? Because it was that trigger from this birthday. I didn't realize it was when I was 9. But in any case, I was so like, I actually saw this the other day and was like, wow, that's so like, oh, you know, I just feel so much compassion for her. But in any case, so my spiritual teacher, she goes, well, if they're not listening to you, they're not listening to anybody else. So it's not just you.
Ooh.
I know.
I've never had anybody say that. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's like the big, that's like sky parted.
Exactly. And I was like, Like literally everything melted away. I was like, oh snap. Like, wow. And then everything, I just like all the bullshit from my, exes melted away. I'm like, yes. All that bullshit from my mom melted away. I was like, thank you. I mean, it's so freeing to all of a sudden recognize that it was never about me. That's what they do to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we get so wrapped up in that. It's so much they're trying to do something intentionally to us, no matter who it is, right? Whether it's our kids, a spouse, a significant other, our parents, whatever. But it isn't. It's about where they're at. And they have so much going on, and they haven't sat in their own stuff that they can't even hear clearly. So you're speaking, but their ears aren't open to truly listen. And I think that's, I know we were on a different topic, but that's truly what I think the golden thing for me, your aha you just gave, but the other one was, how do you really listen and really hear without listening to respond? I read a good book by John Maxwell years ago. Everyone communicates, few connect. And I thought, oh,
good.
Yes. So it's super interesting when I meet somebody, I will ask them, and then I will and listen.
Yep.
And then repeat a little bit back to them about what they said. And I remember doing this one night, and a mutual friend that we have from high school. I don't know if either one of us talked to her anymore to this day, but anyways, that doesn't matter. But she had invited me to come out, and we went out, and the guy she was dating had a friend with. And so I just started asking him some questions, like, I'm going to sit there. So I'm going to connect with this person. I'm going to learn more about them. I'm going to talk to them. Not that I wanted to date them or found them attractive or anything. I just started talking with them. So he went to the bathroom, and she went to go get a drink, I think, the mutual friend we have. And the guy that she was dating goes, oh, so you're really into my friend? And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, that's so cool. And I'm like, no. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, he goes, and I go, no, I'm connecting and having a conversation to get to know him, and I'm just listening. And he's like, oh, I thought like you were really, I'm like, no. So it's really interesting when you truly do that and get rid of your own ego and listen and connect to hear somebody, people take it in a whole different aspect.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and so many conversations right now are superficial that when you do connect with someone and actually listen without agenda,
right?
It gets totally misconstrued. People are like, no, I'm married, or no, I'm like, dude, we're just having a conversation. Just like you said, he's just like, dude, you're like so into my friend. And you're like, no, we're just talking.
Right. Well, and I think that's a trigger for people, but that's another trigger. They don't know how to do that without wanting something. And I'm like, no, I'm just, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things that I really strive to do in my coaching practice is to seek first to understand. That's a quote. I have no idea who said it, but I read it in a book years and years ago, and I was like, yes. And I, for years, had it written on my laptop, seek first to understand. Because, all of us have trauma. All of us have the drama sometimes that comes with the trauma. All of us have triggers. All of us have that gunk. But all of us also have that joy and the triumph and the love and the exuberance that comes with living. And with all of it, sometimes it gets lost in translation when we're having a conversation. And so, especially in coaching, and for you, if somebody comes in and they're like, I'm just all fucked up, and, it's like, seek first to understand. And so understanding what's going on, where they're at, not where we think they're at, but where they're at is huge. And then just understand it. And sometimes actually all the time, it's just listening to listen and hear and to understand. and then offer that feedback, or offer that feedback of, okay, so what I hear you say is, and that's one of the things that I actually teach my coaching clients who are working towards getting their certification with me, is what I hear you say. And so when you frame it that way, okay, so what I hear you say is this, and what I hear you say is this, or, oh, I heard you say earlier, yada, yada. And if you're wrong, they'll correct you sometimes. Or sometimes I'll say, if I'm wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, or whatever. But it's like, what happens is when you say those words, so I heard you say, all of a sudden, that's like an instant validating phrase where all of a sudden that connection gets deeper. And then they're more likely to be honest with you and to kind of let those walls down, which, I mean, I think all of us have some sort of walls based off of, again, our trauma and some of the feedback that we've gotten before, like, oh, you're such a bitch, or, oh, why are you like that? Blah, 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 blah. And sometimes it's like, people don't give us that feedback, so we don't know. I remember one time I was in lunch. This was my junior year. I was having lunch with, I'll say her first name. Well, no, I'm not even going to say her. Anyway, with one of the people that is in my sister's class, which is 1 year above me. And I have no fucking clue what I said, excuse my vernacular. But she goes, why do you do that? And I'm like, what? And she goes, why do you, talk to me that way? Every time you do that, you make me feel like shit. And I was like, I am so sorry. I had no clue. I'm absolutely clueless. I had no idea that I was doing that. Please call me out on it if this happens again. And I don't think she expected that answer, because she was like, oh, okay. But I was like, I was freaking clueless. I had no idea. And like I said, I still to this day do not remember what I said, and I don't talk with her anymore. But I'm so grateful that she called me out on that, because I was like, what? I had no idea. And sometimes feedback like that can trigger us, can make ego have all the stories and whatever. But feedback like that is critical for our personal growth, so that when we are alone with ourselves, when we put our head on our pillow at night, we're like, okay, I did better today than I did yesterday.
Well, right. And, I think when you say that, when we get triggered and we think about what did we do, or what did we say 6 months ago or a year ago, and there's that person that wants to hold on to that. And they just want to label you or shame you for what you said or how you acted at one point. You have to be okay. And each night, as you put your head on your pillow, go, gosh, I did the best I could. And I grew today, and I was different than I was yesterday. And I learned. Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of weird that I've looked at people now when they've said stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, you're so stuck. And I'm like, you know what? No. I'm going to wonder what's going on, that they're stuck, because how many people wondered why I was stuck. Mm-hmm. Right. And I didn't move through something. I just had lunch with my middle son on Sunday to celebrate celebrate him. I was so happy he made it to the 1 year mark. We obviously celebrated late, but I got to celebrate him. But I said to him, I said, he brought up a situation, and I said, do you have any idea the healing and the part of me that, when, like you say, it wasn't about you, it was about where they were at. And I said, do you have any idea how I beat myself up for different things? So when a situation would happen with a child between 8 and 10 years old, when I'd watch that or something, it would bring me right back to when he was that age. And I would beat myself up because I might not have said the right thing, or I might not have felt like I did the right thing. And he's like, Mom, I don't think that. And I'm like, I know, but it was what I thought. Yeah. And then, like you say, it just whoosh, it all went away. Like, all right, you know what? I learned from it. I grew from it. And you just gotta, yeah. When you actually really observe and realize it's not all about you.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, yeah. And it's like, one of the things is when well, okay, we all have our own perspective and perception of a situation. And it's interesting that he's just like, oh, no, what? And we're like, wait a minute, were we in the same conversation? Hang on.
I'm like, were you there for 2 years, or what child was with me? Okay, whatever.
Yes. Well, and it's like, and the thing is like those types of conversations, whether they're with your family or your friends or your kids or your parents, whatever, are so healing and so regenerative, because when you have that aha moment that they don't feel the same way, like they're just like, wait, what? Huh? Like, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Hang on. And so there is still a little processing. Like, I'll give you an example. There's this one. So I was dating this guy, and then we broke up, and that guy had given us a bunch of stuff. He very much was a gift giver, but I think he gave, well, I know he gave to influence. It wasn't to give just to give. And that pissed me off. Yeah. So one of the things that he gave was he gave my oldest son a bounce back net. So essentially this is like a thing in sports where you throw a ball at it and then it bounces back. And so, you know, whatever. I was so pissed that I put the bounce back net out with the trash. And then when the trash guy came, my son saw the trash people taking the bounce back net and putting it in the thing. And he's like, no. And I'm like, it's fine. I'll get you another one or whatever. And I felt like, I still feel a tinge of like, fuck, did I scar my child for life? You know? And I talked with him about it and he goes, I don't even remember that. Like, I'm good. But I still feel this drop in my energy. I feel heat coming in of like almost shame and like, fuck, I fucked up my kid because, you know, and it's because I just saw how at the time he was like, no, I like that thing. And I'm like, it's just stuff, you know, I mean, yeah. And like, sometimes we do stuff that we're not proud of and we're like, damn it, you know, but having these conversations are healing. And sometimes it takes having conversations a couple times in order to clear the stuff, or to have, you know, feedback from somebody saying, you do realize though, they do that with everybody. It's not just you.
Right. I think that's, you know, that's so powerful. And I've never heard anybody say that to me. And it was interesting because, you know, Facebook can connect you to everybody that you know, or not everybody, but a lot of people that from your past. Yeah. Right. So there was somebody that has reconnected that we all went to high school with. I think he was a couple of years older than us, but we all went to high school, and he had sent me a message about something about my wellness stuff. And he's like, wow, that's really done well for you. And, you know, I'm just, gosh, it would be great to connect with you again, or however he said it. And then he was sharing a little bit of like his journey of life. And, I said, oh my gosh, that is just amazing. And I took the time to hold the little button so he could hear my voice, say, gosh, thank you for sharing that. That's so amazing. I'm glad you went from this situation to this situation. Yeah. And, you know, sharing what you learned. I think that's great. And then I got this message back that was just, it filled my soul to be like, gosh, you know, most people don't want to listen, or they don't understand you need to have those conversations at time. And you have no idea just by hitting that button and saying that, what that, you know, I've had that conversation with, you know, a therapist. I've had that conversation with somebody else, but to, you know, it just, wow, thanks. And I really didn't do anything besides saying, God, thanks for sharing. I'm proud of you for, you know, taking your journey from point A to, you know, S. You know, there's a lot of stuff probably still in between to work on, but wow, that was amazing. And thanks for sharing. And it was all because I shared something, and I don't even know what I shared. Some of my, how you start your day matters, I think, one of those, you know, I'm just like, it's just amazing. Yeah. You those conversations, and it's okay. Yeah. It's okay to have those when it brings up. And it's interesting too, as we're talking, you know, when you say triggers, like from 9, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember having the Cabbage Patch dolls, but you know, like it's nothing that I remembered, but it was something you remembered. Yeah. You know, you never know. And it could still bring up something again when you look at that picture later on that you still have to process through, right? But
Yeah, that haircut, I got to process through that haircut of mine.
how about mine? My mother, like what we, that was before we really got to have a say in our hair. But then there's times, oh my gosh, I just seen a prom picture. It must be from my senior year. And I had a silver dress and my hair's all spiked. And I was like, what was I thinking? Huh. All right. Well, amazing pen.
I love it. So good.
Brought me back to like, oh my gosh. Huh.
Right.
But then I remember, and I see stuff, I still remember. Do you remember? Okay. So speaking of triggering things, and it wasn't a good trigger. Somebody said, oh my gosh, you always live life in color. Do you ever wear black? And I'm like, why? It just brings my energy and goes, wah, wah, wah. I'm like, no, why would I do it? And I do every once in a while, but I have like colorful fun lipstick on or colorful jewelry or something, right? So when somebody said that to me, it brought me back to a moment when I had the long hair in high school. Do you remember crime color?
Yes.
Yes, all colorful. And it brought me back to a moment like I had a bright royal blue bodysuit on and these multicolored pants. And I'm sure, I woke up late and I thought it's school.
Yeah.
And I threw my hair up in a ponytail. Don't even know if I put on makeup, but I remember my mom used to yell at me about wearing sweatpants or pajama pants to school. So I'm like, fine. So I got gotten actual clothing for the day, not my pajamas and not my comfy wear, which God forbid you wear that in public, right? And now I wear yoga pants a lot of the time because guess what? I'm a massage therapist and I'm comfy. But it triggered me back to that moment. And I walked in and all of a sudden I heard some girl, they're like, oh my God, just wait till so-and-so sees. And I looked and I'm like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, like our first hour of class, it's always, what is Shawnah wearing to school today? And I was like, seriously? But I was like, oh, so I obviously made a good impression because everybody wanted to know what I was going to wear. Was it colorful? Was it this? And I finally went back and asked that person when somebody said something about living life in color. And I asked them and they're like, no, we were never brave enough to wear that. We were never brave enough to live life in color because everybody was going to look at us and stare and you just walked in and you didn't care. And I was, oh, so that was a good trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's ones that have all kinds of emotions.
Oh yeah. Well, you've always had such an air of confidence about you. That's one of the reasons why I like you so much, just because I'm like,
yeah. Because there's times I wasn't. But I must have obviously portrayed it.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, and part of that, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, part of that I think might be because you dealt with the public so much and you knew how to handle other people. That's a big thing for a lot of people because a lot of people don't know how to handle conversations, let alone conflict. And if somebody's pissed, like, I don't know when the first time somebody yelled at you for not getting the right tube or for whatever, but you had to learn how to deal with that.
Oh yeah. Or you didn't make their drink right at the bar. Oh, I remember that first probably year of bartending. I'd always be like, oh, I got to make a drink, because if you didn't make that, the ones I hated the worst were the old fashions or the Manhattans. I'd always look at my dad and I'm like, can you make me an old fashioned? And he'd like, Shawnah, you got to do it. And I'm like, no, because I'm not going to something's going to be wrong. I'll just get the beer. And he's like, no, you got to make the drink. And I'm like, oh, all right, fine. So I'd have to learn. And it was hard at first, and you had to go, okay, well, I'm still learning. And some people were okay with that. Some weren't, grabbing the wrong cooler tube. I was like, really? You're going to put your cooler in it with your beer? And you're really going to yell at me for that? Okay, let me, why don't you hand me your cooler and I'll fit it and you tell me if the tube's perfect, right? But it just, but you had to, yeah. So that's probably part of it too, because, it's the analogy of be a duck.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Be a duck. And I remember first hearing that and I go, what do you mean? Like what? Quack, quack, duck? Like, what does that mean? Right? I'm thinking, what is that? Act like a duck. And I'm like,
right.
And go, really? And I go, yeah, really. What does act like a duck mean? And they're like, well, look at it. Have you ever watched a duck out swimming? It's freezing, but they look so peaceful and so calm and collected and just sure of themselves and just in their zen. But underneath, their little feet are just moving. And I'm like, oh, act like a duck. I get it now.
That's awesome.
That's what you learn. You smile through it. And, on the times that I wouldn't be able to handle it, because when you talked about it a little bit ago, I call that a full life. Everybody has a full life, right? We're coming into the season of a full life, and we bring a lot of stuff with us through this holiday season, right? So full life, but in those moments where the life is full, I excuse myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Excuse myself, walk away, and take that moment to be bummed for a moment, not for a month, and find that thing that triggers me back into that happy, confident person again.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm writing that down. Bummed for a moment,
not for a month.
Not for a month. That's awesome.
That was
so good.
That was my dear friend Cara. That because I used to be a Pampered Chef's consultant. Mm-hmm. And do you want to meet me for coffee so I can share what I do? Because you're entrepreneurial, obviously, if you work with the Pampered Chef. So let's meet for coffee next week. And I was like, no, if you want to show me what you're doing for a living, we're going to meet for coffee tomorrow at Panera. She's like, I like you. Dear friend. And she's closer to my mom's age than me, and I think that too, as I bring that up, that's the perception and too, that people, they don't necessarily think they can sit down and have a conversation and connect with somebody of a different age group.
Yeah.
Or they judge. I mean, I remember we were out and somebody said, oh, do you think he's having dinner with his daughter? Or do you really think that's his wife? And I'm like, I'm thinking I don't care, because I'm wondering how they got that happy.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
They look that happy right now. Not is that his daughter? Is that his wife? So is she aged really well? And he hasn't aged as well. There's some people that age amazingly, and there's some people that don't age as well, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't actually color my hair, it's completely gray, but it's a pretty gray. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful sparkles when I finally decided, because I did let it go for a while. Mm-hmm. But wonder.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That wonderment. Oh my gosh. I actually have several courses where that's part of the exercises, is to get into that space and ask yourself, I wonder, and you just get into that space of wonderment, but also you wonder, like, what you wonder matters, because if you are wondering based on like judgments, or based on facts, or based on possibility and opportunity. And we were talking about that, I think, a couple podcasts ago, about getting curious about your life and getting curious about things. That's huge. And one of the things I know that has helped me in getting feedback and having conversations and whatnot is something that I learned from a coach. I only remember his first name, Joshua. I cannot remember his last name. Well, actually, no, it's not Becker. That's not, I think that's the minimalist guy. Anyway, Joshua something. But I was in session with him one time, and I said something about how I was feeling this way or whatever. He goes, is all of you feeling that way, or just part of you feeling that way? And I was like, ooh, hold on. I know, right? I was like, actually, part of me is feeling that way. He goes, okay, what are the other parts of you feeling? And I was like, oh, snap, this is good. I was like, shit, I love stuff like this, and that's why I'm sharing it with everybody, because it's like when we have these aha moments and we realize a better way to communicate or a better way to think about something, and it completely opens up everything. Like when she said, chances are probably 99.9% of the time, if they're not listening to you, they're not going to listen to anybody else, or they're not listening to anybody else. But also on the flip side of that too, it's like when you hear, you actually hear, or when you're feeling some way, is this all of me or part of me? And that's a really cool thing when you're in conversation with someone and connecting with them, or giving feedback and whatnot. If you feel triggered, you're like, part of me feels really triggered right now, and the other part of me feels this way or whatever. But when you say part of me feels triggered or part of me feels this way, it allows people, well, most people will just stop and look at you, like, because it's outside of normal conversational, tone, and outside of normal conversational words and, vocabulary and the narrative. Part of me feels really pissed right now. Part of me that's so much easier to take than I am so pissed right now, because then that's all,
Well, and it's okay to actually, I remember, I think I learned that from you. You're like, I think it was with my middle son, and we were sitting at table 65 in Richmond, and you're like, ask him if he's pissed. And I'm like, he's 12, 13 years old. I go, I can't ask him that. And you're like, yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. By the emotion, because he doesn't even understand what it is. So stop him. So his brain goes, yeah, I'm pissed. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, so why are you pissed? I don't think you told me at that point, because neither one of us probably is all of you pissed or is part of you pissed. Right. I mean, that thing, but go ahead. So why are you sad? Are all of you, is all of you sad? Is part of you sad? Like, so amazing. And really quickly getting back to like when I said Cara, really like you said, the people in your circle, the people, that you can learn from and grow from, realize too, like, I've done some stuff with you, but there's other coaches in the world, right? You're amazing. Shift. I learned so much, but realize the more you can be open to sitting in your stuff to figure out what you're triggered, as you meet people and when you connect with them, and you don't just go connect with the person that's like you or the people that's your age group, right? Connect with all kinds of people, because the things you can learn when you truly connect with somebody are absolutely amazing. And I have people that I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I just got through this chapter or this page of my life, and I remember something you said. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And then they are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I did that for you.
Yep.
Thank me, because in those moments, and that's why I leave the voicemails, because in that moment, like you said, but there is a couple of voicemails I've kept, not because I know at some point they're not going to be here to talk to anymore, but so on that moment of hard, that moment of you're on your knees going, I can't, what the heck was that just happened? I can play that voicemail. That's amazing and lights me back up. Yes. Maybe it's on. Maybe it's the words. I think you taught me that. You had a little thing on your door when you lived here in Wisconsin with me and froze in the tundra. So that said, expect great things.
Yep.
Those phrases too, you guys, it can trigger those words around your house, can trigger, like my coffee mug. Mm-hmm. Good morning, yay. Sunshine. What are those things you can have out? Next to me is a cube that says choose happy, relax, unwind, and enjoy. One side says be the change, right? Those things can trigger you to change your attitude, to change your mindset. Mm-hmm. And when you're walking out the door, it's amazing to have. Oh, nothing is harder for me than people when they have their rugs. And so people that are listening, realize you can have the rug. I don't care, but I'm not going to ever have the rug. The rug that you walk on that says welcome. Somebody's walking on your welcome.
Yeah. Well, you're also welcoming in all the riffraff. It's like, nope.
I was like, I'd rather have a message, as they're seeing as they're coming in my door than they're walking over it.
Yeah.
I don't and back in the day, I probably had a mat that had words on it, but today, no, not going to do it. It triggers something for me. I'm like, I'm not having people walk all over my happy.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yay. So kind of circling back around to like the feedback thing. The first time I ever heard about getting or asking for feedback. Now, granted, I'd been getting it, that one girl from school, she was like, why do you say that? Like, why do you do that? And I'm like, what? So I was getting feedback from people. I just didn't know what it was. And then it was Jack Canfield's book. What is it called? It literally just, the success, huh?
I don't think I've read any books by him.
The Success Principle by Jack Canfield. That's what it was. Okay. So
on my list.
yes, super thick book, but super worth it. And one of the things was about feedback, was getting feedback. And I read that chapter, and this whole book is just teeny tiny short kind of essays about certain things that you could implement to create a successful life. And the feedback one, I probably read it like 20 times, because every time I read it, something else came out and something else emerged and I was like, wow. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why it was so profound, but at the time I was kind of like, why am I so drawn to this one chapter? And because it was so easy. It was like, if you want to get better, ask for feedback, ask people how you're doing. Now, granted, you got take that with a grain of salt, because if you ask some people, they're always going to show you the negative. They're always going to give their spin on it and whatever. However, when you ask the right people, when you ask people that will be honest with you and give you feedback tactfully,
Right.
and with love, you grow exponentially. Like, I cannot stress that enough. You literally grow exponentially. And if you don't want to physically ask for feedback, like, hey, how am I doing? Whatever, look at how they are with you. Look at their reactions. Look at their level of engagement with you. And that will kind of show you how you are together, as whether it's a couple, as a friend, as a colleague, as a boss, whatever. And if you feel like there's distance, or you feel like there's room for improvement, which I think that there always is, ask for feedback. Like, even no matter how awkward it is, ask for feedback. And that's just the thing. You can get the unsolicited feedback, which was, this drink is shitty, you didn't make it right. Or hand it to them and say, I'm new at this, have a sip and let me know what I can improve on. Totally different perspectives, but the same thing, right?
And I think we're taught not to ask for it, because we're taught it's always going to be negative.
Right.
And I mean, I don't watch the news. Turn it on. How much of positivity is there? Right. So look at the opportunity and the possibilities. I love when you said that. I used to run a networking group in our village of our hometown for a couple of years with the chamber. And it was, it was possibilities, because all the possibilities, because when you connect with somebody, the possibilities are endless if you're open to the opportunities that are going to come. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yep. I love it. Oh, so good. So what is one last thing that you'd like to share with everyone who's listening or watching about triggers or ego or feedback, or kind of all the stuff that we talked about today? Like, what,
I guess, the one thing I'd want to say you'll listen to this at any point, but as we're recording this right now, we're coming up to Thanksgiving this tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. So, and who knows when you're going to have this ready for it to be aired. So I guess the one thing is, when you go to a situation, or you're going out into the world, whether you're asking for feedback or whatever, realize that everybody you meet, including yourself, give yourself grace, because everybody you meet, they have a full life, they have stuff going on. Nobody, I think they say 5% of people really aren't decent human beings, right? At the end of the day, if you get cut off in the car, chances are they're not trying to really tick you off for road rage, right? They all of a sudden went, oh my gosh, that's my, that's my exit, or whatever. They got some bad news, or they're on it's not about you. So realize, as you're out and about, it's not about you. Mm-hmm. It really going into a situation and just being like, okay, I'm going to go into the situation with wonder, no judgment. If you need help with that, Flora's amazing at that, because that's where I've learned a lot of that. But realizing that we all have a full life, and nobody's intentionally, most of the time, trying to be mean, piss you off, or anything. But at the end of the day, you and only you can make yourself happy or sad or mad or pissed or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's the biggest thing. And if you yourself can't figure out how to work through some of those emotions and those triggers, go find yourself a coach. Be okay. It's not a therapist. When I teach classes, we talk about professional care. What do you professional support? What do you do for other support strategies and self-care? Find yourself a coach. I do massage, and I'd love everybody to come see me. I can't massage everybody. Find somebody you line up with that lights you up to be in your tribe. So when you're, you need that, or you're not feeling like you're connecting, or something's going on, that you can actually sit down and get that safe space to have feedback and have that conversation with. And if it's not somebody that's in your tribe right now, find the person, because they're out there. There are people that want to connect with you and want the feedback themselves. So find yourself a friend like Flora, or a coach, right? Find that person, or be that person to yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes it's really sitting in the quiet, like you say, and really being that for yourself. And you guys, that's probably the biggest aha that I've learned.
Yeah.
From Annie, that be okay to be in your own space, because you are a lot of the time with yourself, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Well, and one of the things that came to mind as you were talking was that it's, sometimes you have to just be by yourself in order to find your baseline, in order to find that space of stillness of what do I want in my life? What friendships do I want to experience? In the feedback I'm getting from myself around others, like my body feedback that I get when I hang out with Shawnah is like all the feels, like all the good feels. It's warm, it's comforting, it's loving, it's honest, it's goofy, it's humor, it's all the things, all the things. And so like energetically, it's very high vibe. It's very inclusive. There are other people where my body will give me feedback where it's negative, it's prickly, it's heavy, it's dense, it's walking on eggshells. And that person's behavior is toxic towards me. Granted, again, if they're doing it to me, they're probably doing it to other people. And so it's okay to cut people out of your life that are toxic, that are bullies, that just are not a good person for you. Notice I didn't say not a good person. They're just not a good person for you. And so be okay with recognizing that if you're getting that feedback from your physical self of I just don't resonate with this person's energy, it could be part of you doesn't resonate or all of you doesn't resonate. But be honest with yourself and feel okay to say, yeah, I'm good. Like, I will love you, but I will love you from afar. Like my dad's second wife, I love her from afar. I have nothing but compassion for her. But together, our energies are like oil and water. We do not mix well. And that's okay. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. She's not everybody's cup of tea. It's all good. So, but it took a long time for me to get there. And the more that you kind of sit with yourself and recognize what all the parts of you feel, and yeah, and sometimes it's kind of challenging to recognize what you feel and why. And part of, well, actually, one of the ways to get there is through self-care, like massage, or through getting coaching. It's really exploring and leaning into those uncomfortable places, or allowing yourself to just be in that space of surrender, of letting somebody else take care of you for 30 minutes or an hour or a 90-minute massage, where you allow yourself to just release, relax, and allow whatever needs to bubble up. And, life is messy. It's messy. So why not have people that will throw confetti with you and then also help you pick it up?
Right. God, I love that. I love that. And for those of you that are listening, if you don't want to have that conversation yet with a coach, or I don't get people that just don't want a massage, because I think massage is amazing. But you know what? That Epsom salt float tank, the float for 90 minutes. Oh my gosh. That, to sit with yourself. Oh, and just really let it all go was amazing.
Yeah. So good. So good. Oh, thank you so much, Shawnah, for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. And, in our conversations, I'm just, it's so filling for me to know that, whether it's one person or, 100,000 people or whatever, that somebody is going to take a nugget away. There's going to be a nugget for, each person that listens.
Yep.
And, when we can share our experiences and just be open and have a conversation, it's amazing. So thank you so much for being part of my life. I'm so blessed to have you in it.
I feel the same. Yay. I love you.
Bye-bye.
Yay. Thank you guys for watching or listening, whichever you prefer. Please let us know what you would like Shawnah and I to riff on and have a conversation on. Go ahead and send an email to support@florasage.com. That is in the show notes. Again, thank you so very much for listening and tuning in. And I will see you in the next episode. Mwah. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
If you've been loving these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you would rate this podcast on iTunes. A 5-star rating is what I always aim for.